Hello, welcome to my channel, my friend Bob. We are with Bob again today.
Hello there all.
We are at his old farm. He still owns it. He does not utilize it as he used to, but he uses like a couple of lanes, if you want to call it, to grow a little bit. What we're trying to do for this episode, I want to show you a few gardens. One will be this garden at the farm. Then we will show you Bob's garden at home in New Jersey. We'll try to show you his garden in Pennsylvania. And then we will also cover my own garden and see where we are in the middle of summer. Before we start, one thing which has happened, Bob has this section and you'll see it very soon. I'll show you the goods and bads and the pains of gardening. Bob, you want to talk about it?
Sure. One of the worst things, or most crucial things here in Union County, the center of New Jersey, is the wildlife. Wildlife is such a big problem. Deer just roam free. They're crazy. Groundhogs, rabbits, even chipmunks do a lot of damage to a garden. And you'll see here, the deer around here, that's what really stopped me from farming out in the field, pretty much. Because the deer, we put fencing up, they just get in, and they do it here. Now I hope I put so much in this year, and some of the areas are very well protected, that they'll just eat the stuff that are outside the areas. A lot depends on the weather. The worst time we got hit was during the last drought, was 4 years ago. Stuff out in the field, I had field corn that never got a foot tall, cover crop rye that never came up, and the deer and the geese came in and chewed everything to the ground. Then they came up here and chewed all the vegetables pretty much to the ground.
So now we'll show you the area which was not covered and the area which is covered. It's heartbreaking after a couple of months of a lot of hard work, come middle of summer and you see your plants, they're already chewed out. So let's go and see and weep together. Some old tools.
Here's my good rototiller. This is a wheel weeder, old, but works great. You get behind it and you push it along carefully. It fits between the rows. I'm overdue to use it. This whole area has fencing up around it, 4 foot, and it's a 2 foot drop down to the pavement. So we're hoping that would keep the deer out. This is a little bit more protected. You got, these were planted earlier, the cucumbers here, some peppers, tomatoes back there. And I'm surprised we haven't seen too many tomatoes yet. I'm hoping the chipmunks aren't getting in here. But these are growing great. You get over here, not as much protected. You can see the peppers were doing great. But while I was in Pennsylvania last week, the deer have come in. Some of them are hot peppers. These are hot peppers here, and you can see they don't like those as much. The others, they don't mind a bit. So I'll get in and I'll have to clean up with that wheel hoe a little bit in here.
So this is where, after months of a lot of hard work, and you come and see this, your heart sinks.
And you hope it comes back. You hope that it's just a one-time thing. Probably isn't. Over here you got some tomatoes, eggplant. They usually don't like eggplant too much. They do like zucchini. Yeah, you can see where the corn, the tomatoes they trimmed here. Starting to get some powdery mildew just from this high humidity, which is not good. I usually try to get varieties that are pretty resistant to it.
I think your eggplants are doing well.
Yeah, I picked one so far. And
I think they should be going crazy in a few weeks.
they need a good rain. I think that'll really set them off. If we get a good thunderstorm tomorrow, would be great. I have one pot of potatoes here. Most of my potatoes are home or in Pennsylvania.
Talking about potatoes, Bob, mine have started browning a bit. Am I ready to pick?
I would let them yellow altogether.
Okay.
I have 3 or 4 pots. The first ones I'm doing are starting to do. You see the squash over here, they hit very hard. It's still hoping I'll get something out of them because, you know, they mainly got the top leaves. But it's to be seen whether we're going to get much more. But they are sprouting some new leaves. Now, if I could just get them protected a little bit. I was using a repellent earlier in the season, but I don't like to use it, even though it's just like rosemary oil, thing like that. I don't like to use it as the fruit gets on there.
Bob, I see a zucchini. Something happening to it. What
It's
do you
probably
think?
blossom end rot. Yeah, blossom end rot from uneven watering, or also a calcium deficiency. Lime might help with that. A lot of it's when the soil gets compacted, the roots get rotted and causes that blossom end rot.
Now, all that section seems like zucchini.
This is another squash. It's actually a winter squash in the back there. Red curry, I think is the name of it. And then in here is Jack B. Little, or batwing pumpkins. I think the batwing pumpkins. These are better bush tomatoes. It's a very compact. It's a good tomato you could use for a container. But again, no tomato shown. It's here. It's 4th of July. They're flowering, but I'm still wish the tomatoes would get going. This one doesn't need staking at all, as you can see. So it would help in a container, to grow it in a container would be good.
I'm having the same issue. On some plants, I have some flowers going and a few of the cherry tomatoes happening, but nothing what it should be when we are in July.
Right. You're looking at mid-July. And you can see there's tomatoes back there, and I've had them on for a couple of weeks, but they keep getting them. They got these peppers, but again, they're fruiting already. These are shishitos. It's one of my favorite peppers. It's great for grilling. You put it on the grill, roast it. 1 out of 10 has some heat. A little peanut sauce, or maybe I don't know about a ranch, but a sauce like that, and it's great off the grill. And like I say, that 1 out of 10 gives you a nice little surprise. There's a few jalapenos here. They trimmed them back, but at least there's some fruit coming on them. Those tomatoes, they hit pretty hard. But again, I've got so many, I'm hoping I'll get some out of them.
That's my whole deal, that I'll plant so many tomatoes, and my hope is that out of the 2 or 3 dozen, if I get fruit out of a dozen, I'll be happy. In the end, it's hardly anything.
Right.
Okay, let's go to the happy
Other
stories
side,
now.
again, you can see the difference between the stuff that's more open, even though it is contained. They find their way in.
So now this is another section that Bob has areas covered, and it seems that everything looks very healthy.
Very strong. These are mostly cucumbers in here. Starting to see a little fruiting, which is just about where we're at here. And there's a couple peppers, but there's several different plantings of cucumbers in here.
So just to have an idea, it's a sorry state. It used to be a beautiful, wonderful farm. I didn't mean to offend anybody. I don't want to hurt Bob's feelings, but it used to produce a lot of food back in the day.
Yep.
This will change
Food
hands.
and ornamentals.
Yes, change hands in a year or so, and I don't know, somebody will build something over here and the farm will be
unfortunately, like most of Union County.
Thank you for watching Bob's farm. Surely it does not look like a farm. It looks like a backyard garden right now.
Exactly.
But that's good enough. That will give Bob enough fruit or food for the summer for the family. And then we know that he is growing 2 other gardens. Tomorrow we'll go to Bob's garden at home and see how that looks. Today we are at Bob's home in New Jersey. We will try also to capture Bob's home in Pennsylvania. We'll walk around the garden over here, show you some shrubs, the vegetables he's growing, and some flowers. And as usual, Bob, who has so much knowledge about these things, he'll talk about these.
Welcome all. It's good to see you all again.
So we are starting from Bob's home, the boundary, to the backyard. So Bob, show us what you have going on here.
Over the years, we've lived here almost 30 years, so I've collected quite a bit of stuff. Unfortunately, I have to leave some of it behind. Just starting here, this is paper bark maple. Nice, small growing maple. Nice habit to it. I have some clumping bamboo, which I have planted up north, and it has survived. Again, it's clumping. It's not an invasive type. It's very nice, just has a great effect. Bad winter can kill it to the ground, but it usually comes right back up. I wish dearly I could bring this persimmon with me. Fortunately, there's no persimmons left on it this year, but I have planted 2 up there, but they're much, much smaller. So persimmon's a great plant to grow for the fruit. It's very attractive It's a great fall color. The fruit looks like a little orange. It's nice. We're in the process of transitioning to Pennsylvania, so we have some time. You can see like these pavers we're taking up and using around the garden. I'll have pictures of the garden up there, the raised garden we have up in PA. I have potatoes are just about finishing up. You can see they're starting to yellow a little bit. I love growing the potatoes. Again, we did them earlier in the year. There's Yukon Gold, there's blue, Adirondack blue. To me, they're quite attractive, even if you don't get potatoes, and we should have plenty of potatoes out of them.
Bob, about these potatoes, and this is a question many people ask. So we're looking at one of the containers. What's the point that you know it's time to pick?
When the foliage is all yellow, will dry up. So this is just starting. You could starting to see them yellow a little bit. When they're dry, all yellow, they're done. They're not going to grow anymore.
So yellow is good enough, or you need to get it to the point of dry and brown?
I wouldn't go dry and brown, but I'd go beyond yellow. I'd wait till they start to really desiccate and dry out.
So for the color which is happening right now, how many weeks away do you think we are?
I would think 2.
2 weeks?
I'm guessing 2. I have some up in Pennsylvania that I planted earlier. When I go up this weekend, I imagine they'll be just about done, which would be good.
So, Bob, typically, what I've heard, there's 90 days for potatoes.
Yes.
From start to finish. Is that across all potatoes, or they differ?
I think most of them are pretty much the same. I'm sure there's got to be, like any vegetable, between varieties, you do get some difference in timing. But I think they're basically around that 90 days.
So if that's the case, middle of summer, we do have enough time to start another run then?
I'm going to do some up in Pennsylvania again this weekend. At least another 2 or 3 pots as these finish up.
Now, I know you're doing it because you have the potato seed sitting.
Yes.
For somebody who has to do it, should they or shouldn't?
Well, you may not be able to find the seed potatoes now. That may be a problem. If you had them, you could use them. But a lot of I get them from an Agway in Dublin, Pennsylvania, and I doubt they would have any of that left.
Gotcha.
So if you could find it, you could try doing it. Maybe if you got organic potatoes from the farmer's market or organic from the store, you could try doing those, try to get them to sprout.
I see some peppers here.
A couple peppers. Again, here the soil isn't great, so we never had a really great tilled garden. It's always been raised. These are shishitos, and that's another big problem in Pennsylvania, is the soil is very rocky, impossible to cultivate it. So we've really gone bigger into growing the above ground in containers.
So when you say rocky, where the soil is not that friendly, you put gypsum.
Yes.
On rocky soil, will just gypsum help or no?
Not really, because the way the gypsum works, it takes your smaller particles. It works excellent with like a clay soil, where clay is very fine particles of soil that stick together. It takes those fine particles and it draws them together, so you get a more porous soil. So in a rocky soil, you're not going to get any benefit.
Gotcha.
You will get benefit because of the calcium in there. Is it calcium? No, magnesium. You do get benefit. It's not bad to use, but you're not going to get benefit like you would with the clay soil.
So it's not breaking the soil,
Yes.
or it's not breaking the rock.
I use a lot of gypsum up north. Always used here. Again, in containers. Well, you can see, like the farm, big problem is the deer. This is a tomato called Tasmanian chocolate. It's a great one for a container. Beautiful tomato. It's like a dark, well, chocolate color, real dark chocolate. This I usually use for lettuce, but it got too hot and the deer got to it. So I did have some radishes. They've gone to seed. So once it cools down, I'll do another more lettuce in here. Again, raised containers. I had gotten this material from Bartels in Clark years ago. It's a plastic, it looks like stone. That's how we did our garden here. It raised it up 6 inches to a foot and filled it with good soil, and will grow on the top. I have zucchini. Big problem with containers, and even with me after years of growing, I planted too close and too much. I have cucumbers along the back that the zucchini is just about choked out. Next year, because of the limitations in the container growing, I'm going to try doing the zucchini and squash in containers like I do the tomatoes. Put one in a big container with that. And There's some thought I've seen where people try to grow the zucchini more upright, where they'll do them in a tomato cage, direct it up, and actually you could see it almost down in here. Again, you see my protection to keep the deer from getting in there. You see how this one especially is growing up. You can direct it up a little bit. There's a zucchini just about ready for picking. And the thought is with that, when you grow it up like that, you can take the lower leaves off. You get better air circulation. We talked about the better air circulation with peppers a while ago. But again, when you get that better air circulation, you have less chance of disease. You might be able to control the squash vine borer a little bit better. So that's one thing I'm going to try next year. Containers and tomato cage, grow the squash more upright.
So one thing you would have heard Bob saying and me saying a lot also, next year, that's the life of a gardener.
Always thinking ahead.
You're always thinking ahead. In my case, Bob is better than I am. In my case, when next year happens, I've already forgotten. And I'll make the same mistake again, and then I'll keep on repeating next year.
Yeah, oh,
And that just keeps you going.
definitely, definitely. It's part of the game.
Well, we are back with our last garden, and we kept our garden for last. Surely it hasn't done as good as some of the pictures you've seen in Bob's different gardens, but still we tried our best. To keep in mind, we planted our garden in different times. So some were early spring, which is still going on. Then there was early summer and then midsummer. So let's go have a look. So we're starting with sweet potatoes. I'm very excited about this. Last year we tried, but it wasn't that successful. We did slips, and if you watch our old videos, you'll see us doing the slips a few times. And then this was the kale which I started from indoors in my hydroponics, and then brought it outside. Over here, there are multiple things. Typically, I started here early with the peas. Some of the plants you'll see are already getting yellow. I'm trying that technique that I put corn in there and trying to climb peas. Peas were planted in succession of by a month. So I do have a few peas, but nothing too exciting, nothing huge to talk about. These are some of our planters that when I showed you the video about how to grow in planters. So the tomato is doing well. Underneath, I have basil over here and some marigold, yeah, I see, and some peas. Again, over here, I did another planter of tomatoes. In the back, I have two kind of chili peppers. These are actually, this one is from the same one where I talked about growing in planters. This is the Thai chili pepper. Then I have over here Thai chili pepper and Mad Hatter. These chili peppers are from last year. I overwintered it and brought it indoors. I still have some flowers and some chili peppers to plant, which I'll do slowly. A lot of mint and some fruit trees which typically sit indoors that I got outside right now. It's a planter I built like 10 years ago. It used to be one of those children's picnic tables. What you see on the top is the table side. What you see on the bottom is where you sit. So I put wood around it. It has a mixed bag in it. It has some flowers, some herbs. What else? I've got beans over here. And I think I started a cucumber here, which we'll see how it goes. My hope was that if it grows, I can always move it up here. In the back over there, chili peppers, okra, tomatoes. So this is a herb garden that I started in late spring. It's not as full as that what I wanted to be, but that's fine. Last year it actually got really full. So I'm fine the way it is, but I would not have mind. Like I did plant things around here wherever you see empty spaces, but some of the seeds did not germinate. Some sages, uh, lavender, rue, basil. Generally speaking, that's what I see. Now over here. So this is what I started in spring. Cabbages, all the brassicas. They are still growing, and I'll tell you the reason. Even though it's hot, see the trees which are covering this area. So yes, you can grow some of the spring plants during summer if you have them in a bit of shade. My lettuces are still growing and growing very nicely. Uh, I have started some cucumbers. These are flowering right now. There are some in the back over here. I just planted like a couple of weeks ago. So they will start. So the raised gardens are doing very well. I do need to pick the lettuce. It needs to be picked, else it will start dying. So this is our regular summer garden, which was started actually a bit later than a regular time that I do. That's why the tomatoes are a bit smaller. I still have to tie them. I haven't done it. But that all said, what you see in the background over there are corn, which I started very recently. So that's part of my midsummer gardening. So the corn over here, some new tomatoes I planted, and a few other things. And in the back, you see some cucumbers that I started. Over here, the eggplant again, it's flowering, it's doing decently. I threw a lot of okra seeds over here, so all of them are growing. I don't mind the spacing right now. I don't think there's an issue. Some okra over here, which needs to be picked, which I'll do later. And one thing about okra, I always say that if you don't like the vegetable itself, just plant it for the ornamental reasons of the flower itself. So the corn was just done, as I said, recently. Give it like a couple of weeks and it will be all over the place. Some of those vines you see are winter squashes. Don't remember which one is which, but as soon as they start flowering or fruiting a bit, I will be able to. Now remember that this was the area that we cut it down all the way and then we put a lot of salt, but these things are growing back again. I am planning to start another trick now. Let's see how it works out. That I bought 45% pure vinegar that I will mix with a bit of soap, dish soap, and using a spray bottle. Anything which I don't want, I'll go and spray over the green. I'm told that does kill the green. I don't think it kills the root system, but it does kill the green. Some of the tomatoes over here, these are the bushy kind. They could be nice for planters also, but since I had the space, why not? So this was our overview of some of our gardens in midsummer. The pattern you will see this year was, earlier I was saying that it's not warm enough, and suddenly it got really warm and far less rain. These things affect the plants. You have to be very careful watering yourself. You go wrong by a couple of days and you can stunt the growth of your plants, and I think for some of my plants that has happened. I hope you like this video, you learned something new. Do keep on watching our channel, like it and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for watching, my friend Bob.